Hello there, travelers. This is part two of the interview with the sin of professional wrestling, the Beautiful Bruiser, Molly Spartan. On tonight's episode, we'll go through our infamous cage match with Angel Hayze. A little bit about Lionheart himself. And also much, much more. Now, this has been the Big Man. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And here it is, Sean and JP and the Beautiful Bruiser, Molly Spartan.
Me coming from Toronto, I think it would be appropriate for me to ask you about a former graduate from GPWA, Stranraer's own Keffy West. Do you know Keffy?
One of mine. He's one of mine. I used to pick on Keffy a lot and just be like, obviously, he's ripped until like nobody's business. He's ridiculous shape. But I used to pick on him and be like, your calves are looking wee, son. And he'd be like, I know. And I'm like, shut up, Keffy.
Was Keffy in your training in the first class?
He wasn't in the first class. He was in the first ever, I think he was in the first ever Tuesday class, because originally was training just on a Sunday, and then a Tuesday class got introduced because of how popular the school had sort of become. But yeah, I think he was part of the Tuesday group. But yeah, I love Keffy West. I just do.
He was just when he started.
He's an absolute beast, man. He's like, he was John Cena, which you 100% can see, you're like, there's all these bodybuilders, and then there's John Cena, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I love, I do. I understand why he's not wrestling now, because obviously he's got a legitimate career in bodybuilding now. That's his job. And wrestling does take a toll, and you do need to be a certain shape. But he's still so young that I think if he decided, you know what, I've had fun in the bodybuilding game, I'm going to now go and try and be a wrestler again.
He could easily do that.
He could be like the next Batista in UK wrestling, you know what I mean? That kind of in shape drive. But yeah, he's a good lad, that
Nice
fish in there.
Yes, he's a nice guy. I quite often bump into him, and he doesn't know me, but he's always been nice to me.
Yeah.
So I'm always rooting for him.
Yeah, me too. He put a photo up and he had John Cena curtains, and I was like, that's the best. You still have John Cena curtains? And I was like, I'd have John Cena curtains. If you ever see him, please tell him. I'll tell him anyway, but just be like, well, Spartan was talking to me. Tell him I was talking about you. But yeah, picking him up.
How beneficial has Girders Gym been to yourself and a lot of other wrestlers? Because my gym, I've got a couple of treadmills here and a couple of machines. Girders is a strength and conditioning gym with a wrestling ring. So it's the place to be.
Oh, it's 100% the place to be. It's a primed, the difficult thing about Girders is we got the gym when it was December, before everything went on fire. So obviously it wasn't the best time to have a new business. it was a bit rubbish. Luckily with government grants and things like that, we were able to obviously simply pay for the rent and pay for the electricity and water and stuff that we were contracted essentially to still pay. But in that time, we were able to properly come up with a plan of action of what we wanted it to be. Because initially, before the ring was there was a big climbing frame kind of thing in the middle of the room. There was a lot of different things, but we were able to sort of invest and think, right, no, we want this to be a place where wrestlers go to train, because it's that's what it's designed for. There's enough space to do everything that requires for conditioning and functionality as well as strength. And also there's a wrestling ring so that you can keep the ring rust at bay. Like, you can knock the ring rust, even if it's just to jump in and do a few drills or run the ropes or things, but also to come up with new things. Like, it's all well and good sitting in your house, which I do, and come up with new things and how do I get to there. But if you've got a wrestling ring, you're able to actually try and execute what's going on in your brain and figure out, is that realistic or is that only video game achievable when it comes to certain things? So yeah, like, it is the perfect place to be, and the fact that it's doing one-to-one training and coaching and stuff for both new and old sort of students in wrestling. There's people that come just to, again, knock the ring rust off with one-to-ones, and then there's those that come to get a taste of what is so be, but not like bumps or anything, unless you've done bumps before. You're not getting that with one-to-one training. But if it's things like rolls and footwork and running ropes and doing shuffles and things like that, the things that you'd be expected to be able to do before starting to do more the physical side of things.
Sean loves a brookside shuffle.
Yeah, brookside shuffles and things like that. You'll be able to achieve that at Girders, to then go, do I want to go to the asylum and start getting a bit more physical with it, let's say. But yeah, it's great. I'm so lucky to have access to it and to be able to sort of help build something that I think could produce a lot of great looking talent. And it is designed for just, like, we constantly are getting new toys, as we like to put it, as new toys, like a new bar for this or a new thing for that. And Wolfie's constantly watching like strongman things, and he's like, I want this, and I'm like, okay, let's figure that out. Like, we watch the CrossFit games and we watch the strongman, and we're like, the gym's like a nice in between middle of insanity and me going, man, you can't get too heavy because not everybody can lift that. And he's like, okay. But still, him eventually then just getting going. Like, he bought one of my favourite things he ever bought was a 30 kilogram like medicine ball thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Off medicine ball, and it sits on the edge of the wall. But watching the Hermes delivery guy trying to deliver it was the best thing. I've never opened up a door before to a Hermes delivery, and he's just like, it's there. And then was like, no comment, he was so angry. And I was just like, sorry. And he's like, but it's when he went, can you lift that? And I just went, yep, and moved. And he was like, okay. But yeah, it's definitely the place to be. Plus, if you get there first, you pick the music, which is always a bonus when it comes to being in a gym. Because listening to crap gym music sometimes, there's gyms that I've joined, their music has been so bad that I've quit. Like, I've just left the gym, like, nah, I'm not a member here anymore, I'm going to someplace else. Like, their music is awful. There was a place I did it, they used to use Spotify, but they didn't even pay for Spotify. So every 2 songs, there'd be some advert. I remember the day I broke, it was an advert for French Airways. Like, bonjour, why not come and meet me in Paris? And I was like, I'm out, I'm done. Nah, like, I can't take this anymore.
I've had enough.
I've had enough of this.
I can just picture you and Wolfie hiding at the window watching this poor guy staggering up the driveway going, I bet you a fiver he drops it.
Well, we didn't know it was coming, but it was just, I'm opening them, so it's there.
All right then.
All right.
That'll be your 30 kilo medicine ball.
I didn't know what it was. There was this really heavy box all of a sudden, and I was just like, Wolfie, what you bought? Like, oh, that'll be the new medicine ball.
I've always fancied running the ropes just because I've never been in a ring in my life, but I don't ever see it happening, to be honest. It's just one of these it's right up there with Never Meet Your Idols, isn't it? It's just, it seems like a great idea, but
it's a lot harder than people think.
well, that's what
Like
he
I've
was
had a
saying.
few I've had a few friends visit the gym. I've got a friend of mine that's going to like build us a proper website and things like that. And he was like, "Can I?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we tried to teach him, and he was just like, "This is so much harder than I ever imagined it to be." And I was like, "Yep." And I feel like it's one of those things that when somebody realizes how difficult certain things that seem so simple are, there's like a real appreciation. Like I had Jen Louise in once trying to teach her how to do it, and she was just like, "That's so hard," and I was like, "Yeah." And if you can do it well, you're really committed to it. Like I feel like if you can run the ropes well, like there's a certain veracity about it. Like I run at ropes like a hunter, like a train. Like I am like, like I attack the ropes more than just run it. Like, but that's me. I like somebody that can run the ropes well.
Back in the day, they used to do the crisscross, and I'm sure Warrior did it with Hogan at WrestleMania 6. They did a thing where they were both running in different directions, and they just
that's a training thing. That's
it looks good as hell.
Being part of that. That's a training thing. Yeah, like I still do that at training constantly.
Oh no.
It
was he was telling me about it, and he's like, "Aye, by the way, that leaves a mark." I'm like, "Shut up, man! I'll come down there and show you how it's done." And he's like, "No, seriously."
Oh no, your body ends up building a callus to it so that it doesn't. Like I don't get marks anymore, but yeah, the first time you do it, you're like, "Oh, what's that? Like, why have I got perfectly straight bruises in a perfect space between each other the first time I die?" It's very difficult. Like it isn't
I've been grilled.
And there's like a way of approaching things. So like Rey Mysterio runs it different than anybody, like other people, because he bounces off the second because he's height, because he can't get the elbow over the top of the first. And yeah, there's a lot more to think about it than just running the ropes.
We spoke to
how Flair runs the ropes. I don't know how he does it because he goes in from the side. It's like an old sort of way of doing it.
Oh, he does.
Like that. I can't do that, but I don't know if it's just because I'm a lady and I have lady bits that don't really work with that. But yeah, that sucks. I keep trying it, and there's part of my brain going, "I'm going to nail this," and then I do it, and I'm like, "No, I'm just going to do it my way. I'm just going to run it my way. My way's okay." But yeah.
Do you find that I want to say the current generation well aware that that's you pair? They know a different version of The Rock than we do. Like my missus is 32. There's 10 years between us. And The Rock is Dwayne Johnson, is her favourite actor. And she's like, "Oh, he's been in this and he's been in that and he's been in that." Like, no, doll. This is Dwayne Johnson. This is The Rock. And you stick on a YouTube video where he's hauling out some of the best promos you've ever heard in your life. And I'm like, that is who The Rock is to me. And she's like,
yeah, I mean, it's that sort of thing. Like when he started going into films, we all found it strange saying, "Dwayne Johnson."
No. He's The Rock.
He's no Dwayne.
Doesn't even look like a Dwayne.
Like it was that way. It's like when you hear people talk about Triple H and they call him Paul. They're like, he's no Paul.
No.
He's Triple H. It was like I did a tour with Edge, and although follows me on Twitter, will reply to me, one of the nicest man, and he was like, "Hi, I'm Adam," and in my brain I was like, "No, you're no. Your name's no Adam. Your name is Edge. That is it." I can't but I'd have to go. I'd want to go Edge, and I have to go, "Adam, do you want a drink?" Like, I don't like this. Like, this is weird. Like, but yeah, it's that kind of. Yeah, he's obviously like excelled everybody. He's now weirdly like he is the standard. Like he is the guy that shows you there is other things past wrestling if you truly work for it and you truly want to commit to it. So like, guys, Sasha Banks is a Star Wars figure now. She's part of that world. John Cena's getting close to it. Batista Batista is
He's
in
getting on.
Marvel and is like, you know what I mean? They are all now in French, and obviously like John Cena's going to be in Suicide Squad. Like they're all now in franchises that are
Yeah.
like lifelong.
Aye.
Like
This is
cannot
what can be done.
like, can he just So that's the sort of thing. Like if you really truly want to go down that path, it is possible. Which of course is why you've got individuals like Lana, for example, who actress does all that, has come into wrestling, because it is a path to get to other things, because people do hope that you bring the audience that Raw and SmackDown, etc. do have.
I was educated, by the way, on the Chemical X.
Okay.
Now,
Oh yeah.
I have mentioned I've got a 19-year-old daughter, but she did not educate me on the Chemical X. I was educated by my 45-year-old brother-in-law, who still watches the Powerpuff Girls.
So do I.
Told me the full story about how Chemical X made them who they were and all that jazz. And I just thought, why are you telling me this? You're 45 years old. You're a grown man. You can behave yourself. The question is, though, could you square go the Powerpuff Girls?
Wait, but there's 3 of them versus 1 of me. Can him and Mojo be on my team?
If you need them.
Then yes. Like, it's not another if I need them. I want them. Plus, like, Mojo Jojo became Mojo Jojo because of Chemical X as well. And we'd heavy be over if we had him. He's essentially a transvestite drag queen villain devil, and he's the best. Yeah, but at the same time, like, they are my girls. Like, I always say that myself, there's like a running thing where myself and Jennifer Louise and Veronica Lestrange at ICW are the Powerpuff Girls grown up. Ram Blossom, Jen is Bubbles, and Veronica is grown up Buttercup, because Buttercup would turn into be a goth, let's be honest. Bubbles would be a vegan, and like Blossom would find a way of making her skills worth money. So yeah, that's just us.
Happy days. And if you were to wrestle your brother right now, who would win?
Me. He'd say it too.
Aye.
He's genuinely said the only person that he's a bit scared of is his sister.
Yeah.
And he says that to his pals of like they'd be like, oh, could you take your sister? And my brother will seriously, like, and my brother's like not a wee guy. He's like fit, like, and he's football and all this, has always been fit and health, like always in his fitness and stuff. But even he's just like it'd be a good fight, man. Between us.
Getting on to gimmicks and stuff, what was your all-time favourite gimmick? And have you ever tried a gimmick that you absolutely hated?
Do you mean for me or for in wrestling?
Well, both.
For me.
Who was your favourite
gimmick? I've always been, who is my favourite gimmick? I mean, the best gimmick of all time that is of not a normal descent is The Undertaker. Like, that is the great. He is an undead wizard wrestler man with magical powers. And we all believed it. And we all were like, yep, on board.
Right till the end as well. You were still.
Right till the end. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, that and Kane are two of the best gimmicks of all time, because they were ridiculous, but we all invested in it, and it was just like, yeah, this is cool, yep. Like, I have asked people, because there's people my age that have sort of said that, like, I enjoy the whole like Alexa Bliss and Fiend stuff, but I think that's just because I like weird, occult, creepy stuff in general, like in forms of entertainment. So I think I'm on board with it because it's my sort of genre of programming that I would watch in general. It's just now in wrestling. But there's a lot of people that I've heard my age that are not into it. But I have asked them, like, do you think that people that were our age back in the day when Kane walked in, were they like, what is this? this is nonsense. Like, why on earth are we, like, were they reacting the same? And in years to come, are there going to be like folk that were like, I love Kane? Are they going to be, I love the Fiend? Is this just the new, essentially,
Possibly.
Undertaker Kane kind of dynamic? It's just that it's a guy and a girl. Like, I don't know, because obviously it's not got to the extent yet that we can fully say that it is, but it seems to have that early ministry-esque kind of stuff going on. But yeah, but that's like, even if it wasn't like, of course, like, I love Taker, like the streak was one of the most exciting things to watch at Mania, to see if it got beat and stuff.
It should have
But
been.
he was never like, I always just liked the person that was like the man, you know what I mean, that was relatable. So that's why I loved Austin, I loved your Pipers, even like when it came to like when like the earlier stuff, like your Punks, there was some in Jake. Like I love to the people that you know that's part of them. And I love a good talker, always have. But like Edge, you knew that there was a part of him that was like that. There was a part of Piper that was exactly like that. There was a part of Punk that was exactly like that. Like, that's what I gravitate to. Something that is, even if it's the worst part of their personality, it's genuine and it's real. And that's what I love. And I think I've always sort of said that about, like, my character and as a performer is me. Like, it is me. It might be the part of me that everybody hates and is not the most pleasant, but it is a part of me, and it is how I would react to something if I was in like an actual fight or things like that. So I've always tried to stick to some form of believability.
You kind of answered the next question, which, how did Molly Spartan come to be?
It's one of those weird ones where it was sort of a name that was dawned on me after I found a bunch of girls lost money, and they were a roller derby team. So they kind of they wanted to buy me drinks, and I don't drink. I'm straight edge. Both me and Casey are straight edge.
Right.
And they wanted to buy it. So I was like, no. And naming people is like a big thing in roller derby. So they were like, we'll give you a name. And for some reason, it actually started off as Dolly Spartan. Okay. And I was like, so it was clearly a pun on Dolly Parton. And I was like, I'm not keen on the Dolly bit. And they were like, well, and I was like, I like the name Molly. And they were like, Molly Spartan. So that's where the name came from. But I used that name from, like, I'd done, like, this is weird to say, but I'd done like a pin-up pageant and stuff like that before, and it was Molly Spartan. It was all like a character sort of thing for an online presence that wasn't, like, that was separated from just the run-of-the-mill family stuff kind of thing. So when I used to do like my pin-up modelling and stuff like that, it would be able to go online without it essentially being on my dad's Facebook streams kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where Molly Spartan came from. It is essentially a Dolly Parton pun.
I would not have made that connection.
Working 9 to 5 is a tune, so I'm cool with that.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Originally, when I got in contact with you was because we had arranged, we did ICW Bard as a review. I'm sure you caught it because you keep up to date on these things. Sean wanted to shine a light on ICW for obvious reasons, and I had already sort of worked my way halfway through it, and I saw you, Angel Hayze, opening the night. And
damn straight.
I just thought,
damn straight. One of the best positions on a card, one of the most honourable positions on a card.
Do you know what?
Is at the beginning, and for that to be a factor is, I think it's bigger than a lot of people realise. But the fact that Bard was the first thing that ICW put up that was new, that was on the Peacock network, which in America is in 34 million homes. That's 7 times the population of the country. Just shy of that. Like, it's
You get a couple of eyeballs on you.
Just a few. And I mean, I know not 34 million people are watching it, but the possibility is there. And the fact that we were the first match, therefore we are the first thing that audience could have seen is huge, because that is the thing that sets the tone for everything else. So for us to be put in that position was a massive thing and a big step for the women's division in ICW.
I know it used to be looked down upon back in the day. I think opening the night, you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, we're opening the night, really?
No, because the opening match is where I've always been in. Although it's like, okay, we're first, like we've got less time to prepare, but the opening match, no matter what show you go, if it's a good, well-booked card, the first match should be exciting, it should be good, it should be a lot, especially like family shows should have a lot of audience participation. You're not going to get a technical classic on your first match. Even back in the day, you'd put in somebody like your Cat Weasels or even your Jim Breaks, who were like a heel, but there was like a comedy or like guys like that would be, because they were just really entertaining. So yeah, you'd have those guys. You're not going to have like a 5-star classic, like to open like a technical mastermind sort of thing at the start, because that's something you sit and pay. That's when you went about, you put that on so you could sit and pay attention.
But you and Angel Hayze certainly set the tone.
Yeah, I, you know what? Yeah, we did. You're damn right, we did.
And I've told you this already. I likened your promo after the match. I'm not going to ignore the match, by the way. We'll come back to it. But I likened your promo to very Jake the Snake, because I was sat, actually, I've got my notepad in front of me here, which you can't see because keep it at the camera. And I'm taking notes. That's what I was furiously doing when you scared the life out of me when you came on. And I
do that from time to time. That's
cheers.
Kind of one of my treats.
I was scribbling some notes and I was kind of looking up now and again to see what was going on. And then I just heard the voice and I thought, oh, well, that's Molly. And I kind of looked up and you were speaking and very slowly and very gently. And then you sort of build up to this sort of throwing the hair back and then she's in full flow. Hell. I actually went back and watched it again and I was like, sort of tune in here. And I likened that very much to Jake the Snake, because he used to say, you get the heels that stand and scream at the crowd and tell them to shut their faces and whatnot. He says, but what he would do, and I'm sure you're aware, is he would stand in the middle of the ring and he would talk very quietly. So they would have to shut their faces and listen if they wanted to hear what he had to say. And it worked as well. I was a Snake fan back in the day, by the way.
There's only so much that can happen when you're screaming. Like, once you're at full-blown screaming level, there's no way of going higher, if that makes sense, or getting louder.
And you can't come back down.
Yeah, like, and the thing is, I've seen it happen. I've seen when people are screaming and then they realise there is nowhere else to go, so they need to like rapidly destroy. And I'm like, okay, that was strange. But doing it the other way around is different. And I don't want to be like genuine people who are tactically, like people in the army and in the forces aren't in rooms constantly screaming at one another.
No.
They discuss their plans, they discuss their ways of attack. And it's the same. Like, there's going to be points where I'm furious and I'm screaming. But to be honest, and Casey said this, when I'm screaming, that's when you're at your best point with me. Because all that is raw emotion. That's just raw, full throttled emotion. But when I'm being quiet, when I'm thinking, that's when you're in danger, because that's really when the calculations, and I say it from time and time again, and I particularly with the She-Wolves, I have a plan A to a plan Z, and I have an extra thing in my back pocket. always. I always say that I never lose, I always just learn. So that's a massive thing. No matter what happens, sometimes me losing could be the worst outcome for you. Because if I win, then all I am is I can be angry and bitter, and that's fine. But if I lose, then I need to stop and think.
Mhm.
And when I'm thinking, that's when I'm most dangerous.
Angry, bitter, and calculated.
Yeah, when I'm angry and bitter, that's you just need to like let me get it out, and then I calm down. But when I'm quiet and I'm thinking, that's even Casey's like, when I'm over quiet, she's like, I can hear the cogs turning, and that's when it gets dangerous.
Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
The I think it's Billy Kirkwood said when you came to the ring at Bard, that was your first cage match.
Yep.
And I loved, by the way, the old school cage with the metal bars, because we sound like broken records. We are old school through and through.
Yeah.
You've
But
got
I will
me.
say getting drop kicked into it isn't delightful.
It'll wake you up pretty quick.
Or put you out pretty quick too. It's a weird mix where you black out for a second and then you're really awake because you're like, oh, don't do that again. Don't do that again.
No, we don't need any more of them.
For a second, but yeah.
Aye, but I was surprised. I'd never seen Angel Hayze before, and she laid it on plenty. Surprised us straight away with the drop kick, as you said.
Surprised you. Surprised you.
I was surprised just looking at it, man. The guys in the commentating booth were giving it Big Molly and Raw Power and all that jazz. But I actually saw you come up with some really nice wrestling stuff. There was a couple of really sweet rolls.
I don't know if that was like really complimentary or incredibly insulting. I was
I didn't know what to say. I was expecting you to come out with a big strong style, and I got sort of in the middle of the match, there was like some really technical wrestling looking stuff, and I thought, okay, this woman's got everything going on. So it was intended as a compliment. And
good.
If she verbally assaults me here, Sean, cut it. But it was intended as a compliment because I was expecting like big, powerful stuff, and you were doing these really fancy looking rolls. I want to say he called it, I'd never seen it before, by the way. He called it $1 million baby. You'll know if that's what it was or not. You did it twice anyway, and it looked cool as hell. And then you did this like abdominal stretch thing where you sort of had her balanced on your knee and you were trying to kill the poor woman from behind.
Yep.
And I just thought all that to me looked really technical and really cool. And I just thought, actually, this woman has got a wee bit more going on than meets the eye here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at first when you see me, it's like I've got tree trunk thighs that don't move kind of thing. They're big, and I keep saying this, and it's a strange thing to describe myself as a sturdy woman, but I'm definitely that. Like, you don't knock me over easily. Like, it takes a lot or a big surprise to get me on my backside. But yeah, like, it's all to do with the training at GPWA. You're not just blanketed with one thing. Like, I'm not the best technical wrestler in the world. I'm not going to sit here and say that at all. But because I go to GPWA, I'm definitely taught enough, and we are taught to be able to think in that sense, so that if we are put up against something that is a bit more technical, we can manage. Like, there are people who are far superior at me than that sort of style, but I can hang in there. And I think it does come down to being at a school that tries to teach you everything, you know what I mean? Tries to at least give you a taste of everything so that you know what kind of performer you want to be and what sort of things that you are comfortable in doing. Like, of course, bigger boys and girls are going to be able to pick up and backdrop, etc. The weird ones a lot easier than the weird ones are going to do it to the bigger ones, but part of that is you still teach that. It's not just a case of, well, you're this size, therefore you can't do that. It's give it a go and see. So, yeah, I'm not a small petite girl. I never have been. In all of my days, I've never been described as that. I am strong. I've always been strong. Even as a kid, I've always just been that strong little tank. But so, yeah, I use that to my advantage when it comes to my wrestling. But it doesn't mean I'm just that. Because if I was just that, then I guess pretty boring.
Nah, and it definitely was not. But then you proceeded to hit away what Sean described as a spear for the ages. And I don't think she recovered from that.
No, I hit a good meaty spear, but I wonder if I've got any influences there.
Could
That
we
might have put
possibly
that
arrange
into
it
play.
sometime? The next time Sean's
Pardon?
doing it GPW, next time Sean's at GPWA, could you possibly hit him with a spear for the ages?
It's all right, I'll teach him how to do it to you.
Oh,
Don't try and get wait.
He'll
Stop
be well equipped for
trying
me.
to get me on side with you. He's at my school. He's one of the asylum. So
I'm too old.
John, mate, you're kind of screwed. Like, you're not going to win this. You're not going to get me on side.
I'm
He's
too old.
where
I'm
I
too old to be
go.
a student, you see.
No, you're not. You're not too old to be a student. That's rubbish.
I mean,
That's absolutely rubbish.
GDP disagree with that.
If that's your excuse, then if that's going to make it feel easier for you, then that's fine. You do that, John. But do not try to go for one of the GPWA crew, because they're not going to win. You're not going to win that match. You're just not.
It's strangely
we do.
heartwarming. Strangely heartwarming.
We do. We might be fighting in the ring, but if anybody actually started to fight him, I'd be the one that'd be behind him the whole way. Like,
I can assure you, we'd be hiding behind you. Like, I see. Now look what you've done.
Yeah.
I would quite happily hide behind you, just to put that out there, Molly. If it comes to it, I will quite happily hide behind you.
We'd both be stuck behind you, but looking at the other guy going, look what you've done. You've done it now, boy.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I got back in touch with Hector over here is I was on the phone to his mum one day, or I was sitting here a coffee or something, and his mum was like, "Oh, hey, you spoke to Sean Bug the day," because that's what she calls him. I'm like, "No, how?" And his trainer at the wrestling gym died, and I don't think he's taking it very well. And I'm like, "All right, okay." So being the responsible uncle, jumped on the phone, made small talk. Now, I'll be upfront and honest, I was not overly familiar with Adrian. I really wasn't. I've tried to learn a wee bit since. And I said, "Look, are you doing all right? Your mum thinks you're no okay." And he obviously told me what the crack was. Then I realised that he was a bloody big wrestling fan. Hence, when I say I left wrestling and came back, that was kind of the reason why. I was like, "Christ, I used to like this wrestling stuff. What are you actually doing?" And it got to the point where we were spending I drive a lot when I do go to work. So I'm a network engineer, by the way. So we drive to the Highlands, like the proper Highlands. And then I'm on the road for like 2-3 hours a day. So we just spend hours on the phone chatting wrestling and talking storylines. And he's got to do this and he's got to do that. And it was happening. And we thought, hang on a minute, you're actually pretty decent at this calling a storyline, carry on. So that is why it's called the Pro Wrestling Journey, and that is why your journeys interconnect.
Yeah, so the original coaches when I started were Wolfie, BT Gunn, Red Lightning, Jack Jester, and of course Lionheart. And I'd known the boys for years, obviously working with ICW, so I was doing production stuff backstage and stuff. But yeah, Adrian always. So I remember after we did the 8 weeks, and they would sit everybody down individually and talk to them how they were getting on or where they'd progressed and if they were going to the next class. And I remember Adrian sitting down and being honest with me and going, "I'm going to be honest with you, mate. I thought you were going to be shit." And I was like, "Thanks." And he was like, "No, but you weren't." He's like, "You weren't the best, but you also weren't terrible. You could do this. You could actually do this." So yeah, it was this sort of odd moment where he had this complete faith in me, but at the same time was just brutally honest, which was Adrian in the back, you know what I mean? Like, there was times where you shouldn't say that everybody's thinking it, but nobody should say it. Adrian was the guy that would go, here, and then say it, and you'd be like, oh, like, that was Adrian, and people said it about him, and yeah, it's just, yeah, it was, nobody was ready for that day when Adrian passed. Like,
No.
It was a big shock for everybody. Like, even just trying to compute it. And the day that, like, both me and Wolfie found out, we were flying to Australia. Like legit was the longest metaphorical and literal day, because it takes 24 hours to fly to Australia. Like, it's a full day. So trying to, like, process that while you're flying to Australia was very difficult. And we got back just before the funeral, because that was like a big worry, because we were in Melbourne when all the funeral arrangements were happening as well. So yeah, it was difficult trying to, like, help as much as you could when you were on literally the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Like, not even remote, like literally the other side of the world. And yeah, it was hard, but I think it all kind of made us realise that this is precious, and everything we do, weirdly, like seeing Adrian and the impact it had, how much us diving about in Lycra meant to so many, and how much we all mean to each other. And if you're in a genuine wrestling family, it was just like a family member had died out of the blue. And I mean, yeah. I mean, it's definitely sparked a lot of more awareness for things like mental health, because nobody, and I mean nobody, would have called this. Like, not a single individual would have been able to say it. Like, none of us would have said Adrian. There's other people you might have, because they sometimes have public meltdowns and stuff, but, like, Adrian wasn't one of them. He was cool, calm, collected, thought he was the man in wrestling at that point, because he held the ICW World Heavyweight Champion, and he just won the
UEWA.
I couldn't remember how the letters said off, and there was just this photo of him with the 2 titles, and he's like, I look like the man.
Proudest punch.
Yeah, and then
because you are, mate.
And then he did what he did, and it was just, it was that sort of thing where, yeah, we were all upset, but it was how difficult it was to compute.
Let's make sure it never happens again, kind of thing.
Yeah, there was just this point where it was like, there's still a part of me that still expects him to burst in a door at points saying still game quotes and just be like, like, just being him. There's weird things that you see that remind you of him, and you want to send him stuff, and you can't. It's, yeah. And I'm not the only one. I'm definitely not. And it to show how much impact, like, you got Piper Niven and Kaylee Ray still to this day wrestle with an armband, like, round their leg or on them. Like, that's how much of an impact he had on people. So
I didn't know that's what it was for.
Yeah, it's a little lion and a heart.
Right.
So that's what Kaylee, I think, wears around her leg and around sort of her calf and stuff, and Viper has it on her arm.
Right.
And yeah, that's part of their attire now. Because even Lionheart, when Chris Travis passed, he had trunks and bits for Chris, and yeah, it's that weird sort of, like, it's just a constant reminder that he is still here, just not physically.
If it wasn't for the man himself, Sean refers to him as Harto, and I always say I never really earned the right to call him that. So I refer to him as Adrian. If it wasn't for Adrian, we wouldn't be sitting here in this conversation.
I've seen him win the ICW World Championship, Fear and Loathing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 5-6 months later. I just couldn't believe I was in a room and he was talking to me, and it was quite an experience. And I only got to train with him for, I think, the first 8 weeks. So I never knew him like you did, but he definitely left his print on me. So I can only
he leaves his mark on everybody. There's footage someplace of me and him having a match at training, like when we were in the old asylum, which was literally through the other room. I don't know who had it or who's got it, but it's somewhere. I desperately want to find it, but it's this, like, there was an odd number and everybody else had training matches and there was just me left, and he was like, me and you, and I was like, okay. And there's like, I hit him with a rock bottom, there's all sorts in it. I hit the worst crossbody in the world from the top rope. I was like, I'm dead. But that was like, pardon?
Did he call you on it?
Yeah, no, it's like, that was baby Spartan. Like, that was first year in the door Spartan. But yeah, I don't know where. I desperately want to find this footage because it exists someplace. But yeah, like, he's a fanny and we loved him.
a fanny and a hero at the same time.
Absolutely.
I've got a question. It was Shug's house party 4, I think. He put over Joe Hendry in night 1, and on night 2, you came out with the announcement that he was going to be joining you to address his future. It looked like he was going to give you a nice big hug, and he got you with a rock bottom. What was your thoughts on that?
This is why when everybody started chatting that Lionheart was a hero, I was like, no, he's a fanny. Like, fanny. I was wearing heels that night. High heels. I was wearing heels. I wore a nice outfit in heels because they were like, look, we need you to go out and interview Adrian, and like, we need extra hands and stuff. And I was like, cool, no bother. I'll put on I'll do my hair and makeup and that fanny. Rock bottoms me. I think it's because I think it's from that training match when I'd rock bottomed him years ago. He was just getting me back. I should have known it. I should have seen it coming.
She's getting you back after all that.
I think so.
Oh no, I always did find that funny. I watched that years ago, and then I watched it again recently, and it just makes me laugh.
Does it, Sean? Does it make you laugh?
Yeah, dick.
The
Did it
charisma.
make you laugh, did it? Was I finding that funny?
If I was face to face with you, I wouldn't have found it funny, I can assure you.
He'd be like, that was terrible, that was.
And that's all we've got time for tonight, folks. Cut it off there before Sean gets it done. Now, this has been an awesome episode once again. Get ready for next week, part 3, where we find out, does Sean find it funny still? Because the way it's looking, he's about to get his arse handed to him. Now, it's been a good one, folks. Thanks for listening. See you later.